Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us this evening for a special webinar segment organized by World Vision Lanka. For those of us who are joining in, World Vision Lanka, or World Vision Sri Lanka, has been serving the people of Sri Lanka since 1977 in development and self-relief or in development and relief programs. The Area Development Program, or also known as ADP, are a long-term program spanning from 12 to 15 years that primarily focuses on children and communities. This evening, we are discussing a topic which is quite common to a lot, apt to everyone, the role of employers and employees during a pandemic. And let's look at how that pans out as we go ahead with our wonderful guest this evening. Suvendrinie de Silva, who is a coordinator of people and culture, staff well-being for World Vision Lanka. Good evening, Suvendrinie. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening. Welcome, everyone.
And on the other hand, joining us is Kaushal Mendis, the Human Resource Director at Pizza Hut and Taco Bell, and the Governing Council member for SLIDA. Good evening, Kaushal. How are you doing?
Good evening, Anton. I'm very good. Thank you. How about you? And welcome all for this lovely session.
Thank you. And I'm Anton Thayalan, the Chief Evangelist for Luminary Learning Solutions, who will be facilitating and driving this conversation this evening. Should you have any questions that you would like to ask Suvendrinie or Kaushal, do feel free to use the question and answer box on the top right-hand corner and send in your questions from now. And as we go along with the conversation, we will answer as many as we can. The mode as we'd like to look at is to have a 40-minute conversation and then look at question and answers towards the end. We will cover as much as we can as we go along with this interesting conversation, which I am actually looking forward to. But on that note, many today, well, the market is opened up, businesses have opened up, and many organizations are on the slow, but can I say a steady march back to normalcy of a workday office or at the office. And there is quite a lot of uncertainty that still shrouds this transition. With the post-pandemic, will the workplace look and feel be radically different? And apart from, and my question, I guess, and then let me pose this to Kaushal first. You know, apart from the amped up dusting, cleaning routine, there may be reinforcement, I would say, of social distancing, sanitizer stops, frequent cleansing of high-touch areas, reduction in the number of people traveling within an elevator. But these are all expected. But besides this, can we take a look at the employer-employee relationship under the post-COVID lens? And could you tell me, what is everyone's expectations really is?
Thank you, Anton. A very good start, I would say. But in terms of answering this question, let me put it this way. Yes, you said let's look at it from the lens of COVID. COVID was a pandemic. Yeah, I mean, working in multinational organizations, having exposure, and even the local conglomerates and many organizations nowadays, what they do business continuity planning. So most organizations, they have a plan, but whatever the plan we had it really worked during the most recent pandemic what we faced during the COVID? It is not. And we had to go through a rough period of about 3 months, and we are still struggling. If you look at the characteristics of a crisis, is the things are never going to be back to the place where it was before. It's going to get changed. If you think that things will get back to BAU where we were, no, it is not going to take place. If you look at the most recent experience, what we had beyond COVID was the economic recession, what we had in 2008. So did the organizations get into the same way of operation post-economic recession in 2008? No, it wasn't. And being leaders, And when we are coming out of a crisis, if we are to say, okay, the COVID era is over, we'll put it behind us and let's start our operations as we were operating before. No, that is not going to work, because the road ahead us is going to be more challenging, and the signage and the buildings and the trees what you'll pass in that road are not going to be the same things that you've been passing for the past number of years. Things have changed. The customer expectations have changed. So as the expectations of the people have changed. So when you are a business leader, what you need to understand is you need to do this scan and see how best you can leverage on your people, you can leverage on your employees, you can leverage on your strengths, your core competencies, in order to address the changed expectations of a varied set of customers. If we can do that, yes, I think we can adopt into the new normalcy. If we are failing to do that, which means we are heading in the right direction probably, and things are not going to be good for our customers and for the employees. So if I'm going to sum it up, what we really need to think is we have to forget about what has happened in the past, but you can capitalize on your strengths. But what really matters is what are your strengths, what are the strengths of your people, and what are the expectations of your customers, and what is the paradigm shift which has taken place during the past couple of months, and to answer it. In order to do that, you will change your strategies in terms of handling your people and in terms of reaching out your customers. So yes, we've just come out of a crisis, a pandemic situation, but you can't really say that we will get back to normalcy as we were. Yes, we will get back to normalcy, but things are not going to be the same as where we were 3 months or 4 months back. Things are going to be pretty different, and you need to be equipped and geared to fight that out.
Okay, detailed, but I guess I get the gist of what you were trying to say. Thank you for that, Kaushal. Suvendrinie, do you have anything to add on to that?
Yes, yes, Anton, I would like to bring up my thoughts in the perspective of staff well-being. Because most of the time, like the staff are coming back out of a very difficult time, as we all know. The entire world was going through a lockdown or semi-lockdown or partial lockdown, and while they were working from home, most of our staff, they were working from home. So when change happens, automatically the people might go through stress. They might experience different types of stress. So this particular stress could definitely have an impact on their well-being as well. As we know, there are 5 aspects of well-being when it calls, like it's very simple, physically or psychologically, maybe emotionally, your behavior could change and your spiritual aspects could change, and this could have a lot of impacts. So as an employer, we should understand when the staff are returning after this pandemic situation, they might be experiencing a lot of changes in their lives, and also we must ensure that the staff, when they return back to their offices, they are resilient and they have proper mechanisms how to take care of themselves, and also how they would face this new normal. So what my point is, yes, it is very important both from employer side and also employee side. There are a lot of things that you will have to adjust into, and there are a lot of things that you will have to think of. As Kaushal said, yes, there are a lot of expectations. So when you think about the employee will always think, okay, how am I going to take care of myself? Because it is not only me, it is going to be me and my family. So it will, they will think about how they come to work, how they work, and with all these security protocols that has been imposed, social distancing, everything matters. So what we need to do is, you need to address them on perspective of well-being. If they are okay, that means I think we have win them, and also employee and the employer. There are best roles. Win-win situation is there. Both of the parties has to put in together.
Absolutely, and you've touched on a topic that I would have eventually got down to, is employee, employer, or employee well-being. Yes. But just before we go into that, I know you mentioned the stress, and I know Kaushal touched on the fact that things won't be normal. There will be definitely differences in how we operate within the office environment as opposed to how we did pre-COVID, right? But can I ask you, how do you detect or identify psychological symptoms and approaches to map resources? Because organizations, while the market has opened up, some companies still feel that employees should continue to work from home. Some have adopted, everything is back to okay, we can manage, get back to office. And yet there are organizations who are kind of working with a hybrid situation, where they've got partial staff at home, partial staff in the office, and there are the challenges that come with it. But whatever the situation is, what COVID has done is to leave a psychological impact on employees and on employers. How do you detect them? How do you detect these symptoms as an employer? I mean, I know, I'm sorry, I'm throwing this back to Suvendrinie, because I know your team has always been out there in the field. For you, working from home doesn't seem like a viable option, because you're not going to get anything done. And your team has always been there in the field, hands and legs down, working with the communities. Now, when you say work from home, obviously the dynamics have now changed. And the situation of, this is probably the first time that Sri Lankan, World Vision Lanka is going through this, right? How do you identify the psychological symptoms of your employees?
It wasn't easy, but as a team, what we know is, as I mentioned before also, there are 5 aspects, like especially as you correctly said, the field staff, or majority of our staff, they work in the field and they are involved in community development. Just imagine when they are set back and they are locked up in their houses and they are unable to serve the communities, which is like that is something in their blood. And when you're unable to do it, we have to take care of themselves as well. As you know, sometimes we might respond, like our reactions, our responses might come in different ways. As you say, like sometimes if you're psychologically down, when anxiety is there, and also if fear is there, because throughout the COVID-19, they might have got a lot of telephone calls from their field people. So when they hear about this, so it is not like directly, they are not dealing with them. But when they hear about this, and when they are unable to help the communities, those who are in need, then automatically they experience stress. So what our role was to look out for those and continuously keep in touch with them, and also help them understand how to manage this, because being resilient is not easy if you do not understand the symptoms. As you said, symptoms might, because we are a holistic, we respond holistically most of the time. Suppose you are experiencing a stress, and sometimes your physical body, you might experience a lot of aches and pains, but actually it is not the reason. You do not have a pain, but the thing is, because of this psychological impact, yes, the negative impact has caused you to experience these things. So what we did was, throughout the COVID period, while they were at home, we helped them, and we gave them a lot of well-being education, and also we spoke to them, and then we had a lot of meetings going on. Technology was the basic thing, the main thing that we had. We used all these platforms to give awareness to our staff. Like we used all these platforms to make them know about what is happening, because unless you understand what you're going through and what are the things that is happening around you, because in case, like just suppose during COVID, when the lockdowns were announced, like most of the houses, they had their televisions on 24/7, it was on. So when they hear a lot of news, what happens is anxiety, fear comes into your mind, and also the way you respond towards it could be really difficult. So what I thought was, okay, together with our teams, we got to know, and we spoke to our staff, and we had a lot of conversations, and we gave them well-being education so that they will have the proper mechanisms to cope with it.
I mean, thank you. Detailed. Kaushal, I know you had your challenges. You must have had your challenges. I mean, you were trying to get back into the market when, I'm guessing, your working staff, your delivery boys would have all had challenges from their own households, saying, don't go out there, don't go to work. You're going to meet. How are you going to deliver to somebody's house? Did you encounter that? And if you did, how did you overcome that?
Yes, we did, Anton, because when we closed down on 20th, we really didn't know what is going to happen. And on 20th, the challenge what we had was 70% of my workforce are not coming to work from their places. The 20th, the challenge was how to send them back to their home bases. From 21st onwards, from 21st March onwards, what we wanted to, we were exploring how quick we can get back in the business with the strict compliance to the government regulations. So yes, the processors were working. We were working on the approvals and all that, but we always had in the mind, look here, though we have approvals, the question could be that the challenge could be, if you don't have people, how we are going to do this? Yeah. It was a crisis situation for us. So in a crisis, when we wanted to play the role as a leader, what we wanted to do was we wanted to get on the front line, just like how a military general would do. You can't sit back in some cushy place or at your place working from home, and you can't get your people there at work. You can say, okay, look at that, the office is closed, that I'm working from home. But you guys, operational guys, why not you come start operating the outlets? No, it didn't happen. So we had to go forward. We had to lead from the front. So that's how we gave that inspiration to the employees to say that, look here, that we are there with you. What they expected was someone, the leaders, to be there with them. So that was giving the leadership to make the mindset of the employees to get back from their mindset of uncertainty, but to get back to the real operation and to be a frontline leader, frontline employee that who serves the nation. So that was how we adopted from a leadership perspective. The real challenge was, no matter how the employee wishes to get to work, so as we did, we everyone are part of a social unit, which is family. The family pressure is far more larger than any other pressures that you get. And what we realized was people are getting a lot of pressure from their families not to go out, because most of these employees, they had either elderly parents or elderly family members or younger kids. So there was a lot of pressure for them. So what we wanted to do was to ensure that the family members have trust on us, trust on the systems we had to ensure the safety of our employees. So we had many activities, talking to, communicating with the family members, and to say, look here, don't worry, your family members are safe with us, send them back to work, and we will take care of them. So what we did was we showed them how the things are happening, what sort of safety measures we've taken to ensure their safety, and also giving them the assurance, even if an employee falls sick, that we are taking care of them. We've extended the medical schemes to cover our employees, not only the employees and their families as well. So initially we built the trust, and on the background we gave them the assurance. So the trust and assurance worked in sync, and it really by 27th March we started with 2 outlets. We had barely about 20 employees, And by 13th April, we had 556 employees working with us, Anton. So that's how we really entered into the game, and we were one of the very first organizations who went out and started getting into meeting the customer expectations.
Yep, I can't argue with that. I think the social media says it all in detail, and I've had the pleasure of watching some of the videos as well, Kaushal. But here is my question. So we do understand the challenges. We do understand that many organizations have taken various initiatives to sort of try and get things back to normalcy and try and support all of that. And I agree, whether they did it out of sincerity, genuineness, or they did it because they need to get their businesses going, it's irrelevant at this point, but they did. My question, I guess, is what are some of the fundamental assumptions? And I'm asking this also based on an audience question that's come in, and I can see where that is going. What are some of the fundamental assumptions that have been challenged as a result of this COVID? So just to elaborate, I guess, technically at the end of the year, people will expect, promotions, bonuses, increments. Somebody might turn around and say, my company is strong, it's big, it doesn't feel the pinch. And they've been very happy with the brand. But this pandemic has shown no mercy to any organization or any industry. What are some of those fundamental assumptions that have been challenged? I mean, Kaushal, you can start, and Suvendrinie can add, I suppose.
Yeah, so the pandemic hit the organizations on, especially being in HR, and I'm sure if the HR community is in this forum, hit the society at the busiest period of HR calendar. So your mid-Feb to mid-April is the time where you really work on your performance appraisals, is the time where you get into your talent mapping, your promotion cycles, to your succession plans are getting in place, your bonus cycles are taking place. So a lot of preparation are taking place at that time, and being humans, being employees who had been working for the past year on a continuous note, they also had the expectations. As you correctly said, okay, am I eligible for a promotion? And I've done tremendously well during the past year, despite the challenges we had in the first quarter. So am I going to get above average performance rating? How my increment going to be? So all these expectations were built, and for some reason, this pandemic situation hit us in March. And at that point, the employers, from the employer's perspective, what really mattered was having understood the expectations of people. What really triggered was how best we can sustain the organization. How best we can sustain a workplace whereas my employees will have a job, whereas we can ensure the livelihood of these people and ensure that they can take care of their loved ones. So that was the initial thought process where many employees lined up with. So I'm sure most of us would have seen, as soon as the pandemic situation arose, and when the country came to a lockdown, even the giant employers, they made public announcements, since most of them are public quoted companies, about their comp and bin policies, saying that in order to sustain the organization, different classes of employees will have to go through pay cuts, so pay deferments, so on and so forth. So many organizations had to go through. It's not forgetting the fact that employees have their genuine expectations, but from the employee's perspective, it is all about ensuring that you've got a place to work. But in order to do that, Anton, what people really expected was, what employees expected was, whether you have authenticity in what you're saying, how truthful you are. So what really mattered for us, what really worked for us, is our authentic leadership and the amount of truthfulness we had in our communications, the amount of transparency we had in our communications. So there wasn't anything for us to hide. Even we really didn't know what is going to happen. We told them, look here, that we don't know, that we will search, we'll get back to you. But this is how the situation is. In order to survive, and we have to sacrifice ABC things, but no sooner we get to the normalcy, things will be put into effect. So that assurance was given so that employees didn't take it wrong. I'll tell you a quick, I'll share a quick example,
Sure.
Anton. Now, in my organization at Gamma Pizza Craft, among the exco, when we had this discussion, so we had X amount of cash pool because we generate cash and we use this cash for our development, so on and so forth. But we had a cash pool, and the first thing what my CFO said was, the cash reserves I have is enough, even if you don't operate, is enough for X number of months for me to pay the salary of my employees. Nice. That was the first statement came out. And then what we said was, the people factor will be the last thing that we will touch.
Very nice.
And when we were doing that, we wanted to start the operation, so we wanted to pay our suppliers, so on and so forth. And we said, we told our people, look here, that based on different slabs, that your salary will be deferred for a period of 3 months, which was April, May, June. But the organization, that's why I said the authenticity, that's why I said the transparency and truthfulness. In the month of May, at the end of May, we realized, look at that, we've got into a cash flow situation where we really don't want to defer someone's salary. So we spoke to all people and said, look at that, we said it for 3 months, but no, June, we will get back to normal. So that's where you gain your credibility.
I mean, that's fantastic. It is reassuring. It also creates that brand image and value. And thank you for that, for sharing that, Kaushal. Suvendrinie, can I ask you, in terms of World Vision Lanka, I know it's a different setup, but can you tell us, how did you go about doing this within World Vision Lanka?
Yes, once again, it's a very good question. I think like addressing something like this, because we are not a profit-oriented organization, but Correct. We are more into child-focused and community development work. That is our main core business. So when it comes to that, like while being experienced in lockdown and while working from home, that was a great challenge that we faced. But we adapted to these agile working principles. Agile working principles, like we had the flexibility, whereas like work is done anywhere, anytime. Because like most of the staff, as we understood, like most of them, they're coming from different backgrounds. And also when you work from home, it is not the same scenario, it's not the same background, the environment that you have in office. So sometimes like most of the staff, they come, they work, they have their extended families living with them, and sometimes like they have their relatives, and also they do not have the office room or any where they like to concentrate and do the work. But what we did was we encouraged them, okay, work is done anywhere, anytime. The flexibility was given to the employees, and also we made sure that the work accommodates the individual preferences. Some are very good in working from morning, in the morning hours, and some are very good, especially those who go into law. And these staff, they took the evening hours. But for the staff who are really engaged with the communities, what they did was at the teams, the individual teams were trusted, like each manager and the teams were trusted how to choose how they work in the communities. So then they decided, okay, this is what we need to deliver. And they got in touch with the government officers and the relevant officers, and then how they would manage their work, and then how would they deliver their work. They were super, like the employees of World Vision Lanka, even though they were working from home, they were able to do many things in the communities that we have to salute them for the hard work that they did. They had to stay long hours on the phone because most of the time, as you know, Sri Lanka, we work in the most vulnerable areas. Most of the people do not have all these technologies. So we had to wait until they get online. And the details, like when you know that you need to help and you don't have a way of helping, you need the other people who have the access to go into these areas. So work accommodated the individual preferences, as well as we made sure that work is done anywhere, anytime. And also employees were valued for not for their output, not for the like they were valued for their output and not for the hours, because you cannot expect them to work for 8.5 hours and then deliver. But because they are working from home, we understood these are some of the things that we are, and we make sure that the people are engaged and they are into this business, and they are they ensure that they deliver the work. So especially it was a big battle, but the operations teams, everyone, they got in together and they made sure that the work, they had adjusted work expectations, because you cannot deliver, but you cannot neglect the communities as well. But we did a lot of, even if you log into World Vision website, the Facebook page also, you will see all the good things that World Vision has done, even though they were working from home. Lot of families, like many families were benefited, like children, and also these focused groups, everyone was addressed, and they understood, okay, everyone, even from the managers to the employees, everyone understood that this is something that we have to stand together. Starting from the SLT, the senior leadership team, growing to the ground level, everyone was on one page and everyone was connected. And like it was like, Anton, if you talk about the communication, communication was very high at that time. The SLT and the other teams, the operations team, whatever is going on, it was communicated to the staff, where they know, okay, we are engaged and we know what is required from us. The way they worked might have been different, but correct, all of them, they were connected. So from World Vision side, I think that this period, yes, it was like everyone would say this is the first time ever that we experienced here in World Vision with the others also. We have some of the staff working remotely, but not everyone. Especially working in the field was a great challenge. But we made sure, even though we did not have the access, our hands were the other officers, government officers and the operations teams, everyone who were working, they did an amazing job.
And I mean, that kind of collaboration, that kind of working together certainly helps and allows organizations to thrive and come out of it. On the point of coming out of COVID, let's talk about the future. We are out now. In terms of an employer or an employee, and let me ask this to Suvendrinie first. What or how do we prepare for ourselves? How do we prepare ourselves for the future? Let's say, for example, upskilling. What can an employer do to ensure that they are able to come out of this successfully? What is the future like? What are the new strategies that they will be looking at?
That's another very good question, Anton, because now we have come out of this post-COVID and we are working towards the next few months. And also, like, there are a lot of things. Uncertainty is not yet taken away. It is still there. And also, like, we hear a lot of news about from the other countries as well. When all these things comes into your mind, and also getting the staff back on board and getting them to work, we should have a different way. So the organizations always should have a different strategy in addressing these things, especially like we had a small trial, like we had these roster basis work arrangements for the staff, whereas because we could not, because we have to adhere to the government rules as well, like social distancing we had to maintain, and also the office premises in all the offices, like they made sure that all these equipments, the safety measures are being taken into consideration. as you said, like checking the what you call the temperature, washing hands, sanitizers, all these were pre-arranged for the staff. And also when the staff was coming, they were given transport allowances, transport arrangements, flexibilities, and what do you call these roster basis work arrangements. We should take an talking the future. We might not be able just at once. We might not be able to make decisions at once. So because of that, step by step, addressing all these, ensuring the safety of the staff, and also adhering to the security measures, and also how will our staff go back into the field, because now most of the staff, they work in the field. That means they have to come away out of their houses, and they will have to go and work in the communities. So when it comes to that, we might not be able to operate in the same way, because even if you go to the communities also, they might have the communities, they might have the fear that they will be exposed to these things, because some of the staff, they are coming from this Colombo district. So there was a stigma going on. Okay, in Colombo there are a lot of, like, the pandemic, the COVID outbreak was very high there. So because of that, like they might react like that. So when it comes to, like, it's not only COVID, but our future might be different, but we still have to deliver. So we might have we all have thought of, okay, this is how we are going to work towards our future. So the way we work or operate might be different, but we will definitely make sure that our vision, our mission is in place, and also we are working towards our great call.
Thank you, Suvendrinie. Kaushal, I'm going to ask you along those lines, but also maybe dig a little bit deeper. Yes, we do have to make the environment more conducive to work, and I'm sure every organization in the wake of this pandemic is preparing for it or has already done it, sanitizers, hand washers, etc. But in terms of employees, and obviously this requires both employer and an employee, but talk about upskilling or talk about cross-skilling, right? And I know cross-training used to be a word that was used in the corporate world many years ago. Some organizations practice it today, but it's not something that's pretty common. But would the idea of driving employees, cross-training employees in other roles, i.e. a marketeer being trained in admin or operations or back office, would those kind of upskilling help an organization in its drive for the future, considering the situation that they're in now?
Indeed, Anton, because as I started the day, things are not going to be the same as how it was.
Correct.
During the past 3 months, there had been a paradigm shift in many industries. You can't really say the situation in organization A is somewhat similar to the situation in organization B, because most of these organizations went through unique propositions. The situations are different. And what happened was, during this crisis, as you correctly said, situational leaders emerged. They walked beyond their scopes, and their true leadership potential came out. Now, when we are walking out of this crisis, now what is the challenge which is going to be imposed on the leadership, on the management, is how best we can make use of those potential. So if your ops guy, if your operations head have shown potential in marketing in some other field, why not that you start gearing him up in that particular area, so that at least to the future, 2 ways. Number one, even if another pandemic situation or another uncertain situation arises, that we have someone who is able to help another work area. Number two, even if you have a crunch in your succession plan, that you have a potential candidate. So that's from a leadership perspective. If you look at situations from a manufacturing environment, especially you know that apparel industry, there are a lot of industries which are being challenged, and apparel industry is one of those industries which is clearly challenged. And in most of the apparel factories that you have specialization, that you are specialized in certain functionalities of a garment. So now let's say if we really looked at, many organizations have done that, your cross-skilling, multi-skilling, so that even in a situation where one of your buyers pull out, or you discontinue a certain style and you get into a certain whole different line of apparels, if that cross-skilling would have done, things would be really easy. So to the future, what we really can do is to look back for the past 3 months, understand where your leaders, where your employees have shown potential. And when you have the talent review meetings in the upcoming weeks, months, to base your talent review meetings on your observations during the past couple of months and navigate their careers, navigate their potential on the things what you really observed, rather than coming into hypothetical assumptions. So adding to that, your environment, your business environment will also support, because the landscape that you operate have also significantly changed. Let's say an organization A was doing a retail business, where the majority of their customers used to visit the store and to purchase. The past 3 months changed that mentality of customers of walking into a store into ordering on digital platforms. So let's say if a person who had pure digital skills, but he was not utilizing them, and maybe he was working in some other function, whereas now you can pull him up and put him in the right place and make use of skill sets. So as you correctly said, understanding the potential of employees, putting them at the right places, and leveraging on the showcase leadership potential, and to line them up for the future, will be the most wisest thing to do at this point, in my opinion, Anton.
I think you've covered quite a number of points, which is interesting, and I have to agree with them. Let me ask you this, and this is something that's coming from Indika from the audience. Thank you, Indika, for the question. What is expected of an employee under these circumstances? What can an employee do? This is an interesting question. From an organization, I know everything gets thrown at the management, everything gets thrown at the leadership. Leadership and management and organizations are expected to do this, that, and so on and so forth, and the list is never ending. But considering the situation, maybe I will start with Suvendrinie. You can tell us how World Vision is looking at it, and then I can ask Kaushal to talk to us about how Gamma is putting this into play. What is the expectations from an employee? What do you want them to do that is not normal? How do you want them to be? I suppose is the question.
What is the question? You're asking about the expectations of the employee, is it?
Correct. What does the organization expect? And this is something from the audience. I'm just trying to understand what Indika has put in there. What is expected of an employee? So I guess what Indika wants to know is, I know you've got your job role, you've got your job descriptions, and I guess that is the standard, so everyone knows their roles. But under these circumstances, there's a lot of pressure on the employer to make sure that X, Y, A, B, C, the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, right? And everything is on the employer, the management. But as an employee, what is expected from an employee on these circumstances by the management? Do you want them to, think differently? Do you want them to do something in specific? Or do you not have this challenge at World Vision?
Once again, it's a very good, there is a different aspect or maybe different expectation that they are asking from. And I think like when it comes to the employee, always the employee should be having this understanding. For me to add value to the organization, what are some of the areas? Sometimes like you might have a lot of skills. So even during pandemic time, also during the lockdown also, like what we did was like we built the resiliency among the staff. Resiliency among the staff in the sense like cognitive, their thinking levels have to increase. So most of the time, like sometimes the staff were emotionally down, so they did not connect with that, but we made sure that they are well aware of what is happening. So we encourage them to engage in a lot of activities. And also when it comes to cognitive or thinking, or they like to be addressed. So what we did was like there were a lot of platforms, online platforms, where we opened up for the staff to develop their skills or to have a lot of education on. Even World Vision has a different platform where they have these online courses, not only for their particular area, but also there are other areas also where they could follow the courses and get more education or knowledge on that. And also there were a lot of instances where the staff would have had the exposure to have the best knowledge or to get the best knowledge, best practices from the others as well who are going through the same situation. As you said, like just like the performance or anything like the education, what you can gain from during this time, we made sure that they would use the maximum out of this time. Sometimes like when you're thinking is affected and when you cannot focus on certain things, like when everything else around you is happening, like the negative things are taking place, crisis is bothering you, we made sure, okay, this is something that these are some of the avenues you can explore on. There are a lot of platforms, like in terms of like most of the staff, they completed a lot of online lessons, and the knowledge and certain things that they have been putting, like they were saying, okay, I will do it later, I will follow this later, or I will try this later. Most of the things they were able to do it. So the expectation from the add value to the organization, and also to be a what you call to add value and also to deliver the same thing. So I think like when it comes to my subject, like where we think about the well-being aspects, all these 5 aspects, physically, behavioral and spiritual and emotional level, how to have a balanced life, especially when it comes to cognition. So how to have a balanced life, and also when you are a resilient employee, that means if you have the coping mechanisms, then you are ready to take up any
I have to agree with you on that. So I mean, resilience is an important part, and I think you've stressed on that, and that is so important, both from an employer and an employee perspective. Thank you for that. Kaushal, I'm gonna also throw this at you to look at how a corporate like yours goes through. So from your perspective, what is the expectation of an employee? And also, well, let's start with that first, though. What is it that you expect from your employees? I mean, I know you said what your CFO had mentioned, which I think is fantastic. It's not a luxury that many organizations have enjoyed over this period. But what is it that your organization expects out of its employees?
Anton, we haven't tested that water when we are on 20th. So the biggest thing what we expected from our employees is flexibility with an open mind. Because from our side, because it's a chicken and egg situation, the management and employee, because even the management are employees. So they are playing the role of a manager, but you falls into the bracket of an employee. But being the steer, being the engine which takes the organization forward, what we told our employees is be flexible, have an open mind, have a better understanding. And with that flexibility, with that openness, from our side, what we gave them was, we gave them a sense of purpose. It was not making a pizza and to deliver. We gave them a sense of purpose as to why you need to come to work, as to why your services are required at this point. When during this time, as Suvendrinie correctly said, interpersonal communications, though it became things improved. We spoke to a lot of people, and I can still remember when I spoke to my training manager, because what I understood was that he was working around the clock, and the groups are flooded with his instructional messages where he wasn't used to do that. Then I asked him, Chris, what's happening? Are you all right? Do you have a rest? He said, Kaushal, all this time, the organization unconditionally fed me. The organization gave me things which I didn't ask for. And there's my time. My time has come, so let me do my part. We wanted that type of employees. So open mind, unconditional, and flexible. Those are the three things what we expected out of our employees.
And thank you for that. I guess when you have a situation like that, an inspiration that the organization can draw from, where the employee comes back to tell you, or even without saying, but to show in action that they are grateful for what the company has done for them for so long. Now it's their turn to do for the company. It certainly helps. I mean, it lifts the spirits, it helps the organization, it pushes the leaders to go forward, I suppose. Suvendrinie, you touched on technology earlier on, and I want to go back to that point. I understand that for World Vision, a lot of it being field work, but then you're now pushed to work with technology. Technology certainly has its benefit. A lot of people have been challenged by it, but yet it has become a necessity. People who thought that they couldn't do it are now doing it. And some have found it to be extremely comfortable, and now they don't want to switch back. Does that have a psychological impact? And since you deal with individuals and communities, I want to ask this from you first. Does technology, while with all its benefits, does it have a psychological impact on individuals?
Yes, Anton, a very good question again. I think, like, as I touched earlier also, technology plays a bigger role, especially for an organization like us. It was very important because we cannot work alone. We had to work with the communities. So starting from within the organization, internal communication also, we made sure that the technology is used very much, because like everyone had their laptops, their dongles, everything was provided by the organization, and connecting with each other, especially when it comes to communications, starting from the SLT or the higher level, all the communications took place through these technologies. We use these corporate packages, the bulk SMSs, where we created the awareness. All the awareness campaigns took place through, like, everything, organizational decisions. They did not have to check their emails all the time, but they got it on their mobile phone. So there you will see, okay, the information or the decisions were communicated. And also we used all these latest technologies like Zoom, MS Teams. All these things were used, especially, as I told you, they had to work in teams. Like, the manager had a big responsibility, especially how to care for their virtual team. So taking care of their virtual team, they made the maximum out of this technology that is provided. So they made sure that they speak to each other, they revisit their goals, and they revisit how are they going to deliver their work and what are some of the challenges they are facing. So, like, these things it wasn't an easy one, because, you know, we have staff coming from different age groups. So just into these technologies might not have been an easy thing. But once they like it was easier for them. Like we had when it comes to communication, it was super, like everything was communicated and they were able to talk to each other. They were able to share their experiences, because the managers, they were able to take care of the employees just as they were taking care of them. Only difference, they couldn't meet in the room, but they were able to meet through Zoom. So that was really good. So that is one plus point that we saw. And also like even when it comes to spiritual level, as you know, when you face a stressful or a difficult time or a change all the time, most of the time, as I said, because I'm handling this well-being component, I know most of the time the staff could experience either physically they would respond, or their behavior could change, or emotionally, or maybe they are thinking or cognitive, and also their spiritual level. So what, as an organization, they made sure, okay, since we are coming from a faith background, like we conducted all those things, like the spiritual activities were conducted using the technologies, whereas the staff had the opportunity to connect as one organization, even though in different 500 locations could be, but still they were able to connect in one platform. And also social media was excellent, like everything was communicated. Then different teams, like the communications team, whatever what is happening, they are updated. Social media was used. And also there's something that the technology, we were able to notify our staff of some of the initiatives that we have been thinking of, like especially World Vision is an international organization, and also we have this we are a humanitarian organization, and we have this peer support in the sense like we help each other, those especially when they want to talk to someone. Yes, there are groups who are being trained, and they will listen, and they will give them coping mechanism, they will provide mechanisms. Because I experienced as a peer supporter, trained peer supporter, there was one incident where employee, not the employee, one of their staff family members were experiencing, when they were hearing about this COVID and what is happening in the country and in the world, like they were going through a lot of difficult times. So we were able to provide peer support. That is a very good initiative that World Vision International has. And during this time, through technology, we were able to support them. We conducted a lot of, yeah. So I think like it is important. And also we are heading towards a era where a lot of technology will be used. A lot of things will be used. And so because of that, it is better to have that understanding.
Sure. I know we are mindful of time. I have a question that's come in from an audience, anonymous. Does World Vision use psychological first aid? And I have a vague idea on what that is, but Suvendrinie, obviously this is World Vision Lanka question. Does World Vision Lanka use psychological first aid?
Yes, psychological first aid. Yes, we are focused. As I said, peer support is one initiative that we have taken into consideration, and that is something that we practice. So psychological first aid means like psychologically you can have a lot of impact. So because of that, what are some of the coping mechanisms? How can you come back to normal? Yes, so we have, especially for the staff, have opened it up.
Okay, including the staff. Okay, very nice. Okay, that's probably where the question is coming in from. So, I mean, thank you very much for that detailed input. Kaushal, from again, a corporate perspective, impact on technology, have you experienced? Can I start with that?
Yeah, Anton, things have changed. What we understood was in terms of collaboration that we've used technology to the next level during the past 3 months. Beyond that, being in the business context, what we're trying to do is we're trying to make our technology more simpler. We are trying to make it more appealing to our customers so that there will be user-friendly platforms for them to use. So the entire the focus on technology, maybe if I could say elaborate and say the technological horizon what we were looking at over a period of 3 to 4 years, we had to expedite it. And we were pushed into the deep end, so that 3 to 4 years horizon is now we are trying to work on and probably to deliver within an year, so that both the internal stakeholders and the external stakeholders will be benefited out of these technological advancements.
Thank you for that. My question, I guess, just last one for the evening. We are mindful of the time, and we do have people out there, and I'm sure everyone has got their commitments to go back to, Sunday being the last day of the weekend. Just to wrap up, can I ask both of you, what has the pandemic revealed about the relationship between an employer and an employee? One of who would like to go first would be my question. I know I've been volunteering both of you at random free will. Can I start with Suvendrinie? Would you like to tell us what has the pandemic revealed about the relationship between employer and employees? And you can talk to us from a World Vision Lanka perspective.
Yes. Once again, it's something that is a lesson that we learned throughout the past few months. The importance, like for staff, they were made understood, like how the organization take care of them, not only them, about the families as well, because they value the human resource that they have. So I think, and also for World Vision, from the point of like the employee also knew, okay, because of World Vision and what we do, we are able to, especially like, as you know, most of the staff, they more than they take care of themselves, they are focused on taking care of the communities. So their heart is set out there. But it is very important, first, as if you fly in an aeroplane, the instructions would be, before you take care of the other person seated next to you, always make sure you take care of yourself. So the employee, it is the employee's responsibility to take care of themselves. So when it comes to, again, it's well-being, having a balanced life, or you not have a balanced life, yes, you will experience a lot of repercussions on that. Then you will not be able to contribute, you will not be able to add value. Same as the organization is more focused on the well-being of the staff. Because of the staff, they are able to achieve their goal and their mission, their vision. So there are a lot of things, like during this time, the organization was thinking about the 5 aspects. How can we support the staff as physically, if they are experiencing any medical issues or anything that is related to that? Organization took the extra step and said, okay, go ahead, take the medicine, and there for assurance, okay. And even the medical schemes, we were able to talk to the service providers, and the service providers, they were willing to support the staff. Don't worry, even that particularly, if it's going to be a stressful time, yes, we will definitely take care, especially when it comes to mental well-being, counseling, even that, they went to the extreme of paying those bills as well. So, and also like social media, everything was like focused on how to take care of yourself. Even like awareness campaigns were done, and also like spiritually, as I said, a lot of interventions and initiatives were done. So all these areas were captured, even learning opportunities were given, and even like peer supporters were always open, where the staff, if they were going through a difficult, stressful time, yes, that initiative was there, like the staff had the time to talk to them and have that relationship. So it was like the organization and employee, that was a good opportunity. During the past 3 months, we saw it was there, but it was strengthened. I would say it was strengthened because the organization was taking care of the well-being of the employees, and whereas the employee knew, okay, they are taking care of us well, so we need to give our best. So whereas all these things like work together, it was like woven together, and the employees gave their best, and they were highly engaged with them, the organization work as well. So I would say that was something that revealed, okay, we are together with this. At this time, we will fight this together. So employees always had the assurance, okay, the organization is there.
Thank you, Suvendrinie, for that. summing up. Kaushal, from your perspective, sir, how has the pandemic revealed, or what has the pandemic revealed about the relationship between an employer and employee? From your perspective, I know you are not just with Gamma, but you're also part of the HR Association, so I know you have enough stories there. But what's the general take?
In order to set the context for that question, Anton, I believe very strongly that the people are the ones who make the difference at any time. So people drive it. But especially in a crisis, that's going to be the frontline employees. They are the ones with the courage who are willing to risk their lives. They're willing to risk their jobs and their careers and to make this situation go. And being a leader, that what we expected our leadership teams was to be with them, lead them from the front. And in doing that, we wanted our people, our managers, to be grounded in their beliefs, in the principles. And we call that our true north. It's not what can we do, what should we be doing, our values, and the things what we hold mostly dear to us. So this combination established a very nice equilibrium. That was where the employees started believing in the management. They were becoming more dear to the management because they understood the authenticity of the management. They understood how transparent they are, how truthful they are. So that relationship built. So what we need to do right now is to take it on from there. So these 3 months elevated that relationship between the employee and the employer to a different level. Now the ground is set. Now it's the role of the management to take it further, not to let that crack again with our busy schedules of routine work. You get back to your best practices of how you dealt with your people during the past 3 months, so that dearness, that amount of closeness, and how they adore you as a reasonable manager, that will be continued throughout. And I'm sure then your performance will be not merely delivered through objectives set on a KPI sheet, but those objectives, your performances will be delivered through their pure sense. So relationships evolved, and it's our challenge. The challenge is on us to take it forward.
Thank you, Kaushal. Thank you, Suvendrinie. Well summed up by both of you. Thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge and experience. We can clearly see how both of you have valiantly led your teams from the front during the time of crisis and post, and have clearly come out on the other side smarter and savvy as a result of it. So thank you very much for that. It is clear from today's discussion and from the examples and experiences that we've heard over the past few weeks that there have been boundaries that have been crossed for the better. We've clearly seen employers go beyond in supporting employees in their transition back during COVID, post-COVID, and as we speak. We have clearly seen employees going beyond the call of duty in supporting their employers, which I think is a crucial behavioral change, crucial attitude to have, and that certainly helps build that bond. For sure, employee and employer relationship now needs to be reframed in the words of Kaushal and Suvendrinie. We do need to take it from there. Each party, I guess, has gone beyond contractual obligations. This is what we hope, and this is what we expect. And this is indeed refreshing to see that the understanding between an employer and employee has certainly blossomed, which helps band people together, organizations become stronger, and drive towards that ultimate goal of being more productive and hitting those bottom lines. On that note, I'd like to thank everyone for listening in. Once again, thank you to Suvendrinie and Kaushal for their time. Really appreciate it. A huge thanks to World Vision Lanka for their support in getting this webinar off the ground. From me, Anton Thayalan at Luminary Learning Solutions, good night. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Stay safe, stay productive.